later on. And there we go. So I'll now hand you over to our presenters, Phil Stacey, who works in the information management in the construction industry, and Eugene Morozov, who is a technology consultant in financial services. Over to you guys.
Well, good evening and welcome. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background about why we wanted to hold this workshop, and it's going to be less of a presentation and more of a hands-on kind of follow along if you can. And at the beginning of the year, we kind of sat down and talked about some of the meetups that we'd like to do with ISKO. And one of them I was quite keen on was trying to do a workshop and just kind of do more of a hands-on and less of a presentation. And I don't know how many were at the 2019 ISKO conference at City University, but there was a very good kind of round table discussions. And that's kind of where I got the idea of doing more workshops. And this year has been quite busy with the meetup, so we really haven't had a chance. But following on from the ISKO ED talks that we've had for the last 2 months, there's been an opportunity, I think, now to talk about kind of putting this into practice. Eugene?
Yeah, that's right. So I think the topic of this workshop specifically is getting started with Vocbench. And those of you who joined ISKO Knowledge Urbanization Education Series in the past couple of months might recall 2 last sessions on thesaurus by Stella Dextra. And I think one point that she made is importance of using right tools for the job, so to speak. So not using Word or Excel to build thesaurus and taxonomy, but rather use purpose-built tools. So there are, of course, many tooling options. Most of them are commercial, but one tool in particular, Vocbench, that we're going to talk about today, which is web-based collaboration and thesaurus management platform, is actually free and open source. So one thing I think is there's a perception that web-based tools, they require quite a bit of a complicated setup. You know, you'd need web servers, you'd need infrastructure, so on and so forth, to even give it a try. But you know, we certainly don't think it's the case. And really, this workshop is to make sure. Let me just actually share my screen, right? So really the goal of this workshop is that by the end of it, you can install and run Vocbench on your machine. So that's certainly our goal. And the way we envisage this workshop working is that first we'll ask you some questions about your area of interest, what you're trying to get out of the workshop. We'll run a bit of a poll as well. We'll talk about some of the prerequisites. So we'll spend some time, maybe just a couple of minutes, talking about Vocbench, talking about Docker that we'll use throughout the workshop. And then towards the end, we'll sort of talk about what next topics we can cover. And like Phil said, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So actually, as we step through it, we'll pause and we'll allow for questions. So certainly that's something that we want to do.
So I guess for us, it would be great if you'd like to introduce yourselves, put your camera on, turn your mic on, and just introduce yourself for 30 seconds. Nikki, would you like to start?
Sure. As I said before, I work for John Wiley & Sons, and I'm really interested. I've heard a lot about Vocbench, but I don't know much about it on a practical level. Basically, how do you use it, and how do you build a thesaurus? Because I'd love to find out how it can help me in my day-to-day work as a thesaurus manager.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Bertha, and I'm a clinical and outreach librarian. So I'm doing my chartership, my CLIP chartership, and I joined ISKO. Well, I've been doing the ISKO seminars, and I just find very interesting the edge that I'm getting from all these activities. Now I'm a champion for MS Teams, but obviously anything else that is open access and open source is more than welcome to get myself familiar with everything that is going on, especially on the technology side of it.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Mark. I have I'm an information designer, and I have a reasonably large multilingual website that is getting a little bit out of control, and I want to play with thesauri and looking at building RDF stuff, which I know a little bit about in theory. And so I have a project, and so I'd like some tools to play with it.
Fantastic.
Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm a beginner at this. I'm studying information and library studies at Robert Gordon University, and I've been following the ISKO seminars because I'm finding knowledge organization very interesting, and I think I would like to work in that area. I'm not exactly sure how and where, and that's what I'm exploring right now.
Thank you. That's great.
Hi, I'm Richard Absalom. I'm a retired patent examiner from the European Patent Office, and I left to try and start a crowdsourced classification of science and technology. And I've not got very far with it, but still learning.
Thank you. While people are introducing themselves, I'm just going to throw up this poll, and don't let it distract you, but it's just a couple of questions about what is your background, and just so we can kind of understand a little bit about the audience and try to steer the workshop accordingly. Anybody else like to share?
I'm Jonathan Engel. I've been an information architect for about 20 years. And a lot of my clients are looking for software that's independent of a suite of applications that might do content classification or other knowledge management techniques. And they just really want to build a thesaurus or taxonomy and be able to share it and work on it collaboratively. And I've tried using Vocbench before, but I never got around the initial downloading and setting up of my computer to be able to do it. So this is a great session for me.
I was in that boat about a month ago. So don't feel lonely. And with the team, Armando's actually here from the Vocbench team, and he's going to come in and out. But without their help, I wasn't able to get it installed. And that's another reason that I thought it was good to kind of have this is a very beginning one on Vocbench, and then maybe we'll have follow-on sessions. But yeah, don't feel alone. It's tricky getting started, I think.
Very well, thank you for organizing this.
Hi, my name is Aaron Leonard. I am a senior manager at Synaptica, and we produce taxonomy and ontology software, enterprise software. So I'm here because I like to know what's happening in the market, both for open source tools and, of course, like enterprise commercial tools. I've never used the tool. I'm not very familiar with it, so I'm really looking forward to learning more.
Fantastic. Sorry, I'm just reading a question. In the poll background, should I have a either option or answer both? Okay. Mark, fantastic. Anybody else?
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, please.
Thank you. Hi. I'm Deanne. I'm an information specialist, and I work at the
Sorry, we can't hear you very well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm an information specialist. I work at the Social Care Institute for Excellence.
Sorry, you're fading in and out. Or is it just me?
Yeah, so I work at Social Care Institute for Excellence, and I maintain I've just taken over maintaining a social care thesaurus and run social care online website. And I'm new to this, so just came along to find out how to use this.
Sorry, we are
Your
listening.
mic.
Okay, it's okay. I'll just.
Your mic goes up and down.
This keeps fading in and out.
Hi, I'm Damien. I'm a newbie. I met Jonathan Engel a few years back and got the bug for SKOS. And so I'm here to learn as much as possible. And I'm really turning into a taxonomy geek.
Cool. Welcome.
I can go next. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a taxonomist, and I feel like the amount of experience I have very little system experience. So I'm looking to learn about new applications that could help me.
Great. Well, this is definitely, I wouldn't say this is a new application. It's quite a mature application, but maybe new to you. Anybody else? 24 people out of 30 have voted. So if there's a couple more that like to vote, or if the poll...
So if you want, I can say 2 words about me.
Yeah.
Armando. I'm a researcher at the University of Tor Vergata, and I started, my area of expertise is knowledge engineering, and I come from a group that has always worked in the field of NLP. So we have always got a kind of flavor for language, even though I am the kind of black sheep that is working on ontologies, taxonomies, and this kind of thing. So in the end, I also ended up working on standards for knowledge representation and for representation of language inside the Semantic Web standards, which are also supported by Vocbench. In 2009, I started a little joint venture, let's say, with FAO, which I was collaborating with the Food and Agriculture Organization, and we started together working on this Vocbench. The thing started as a development of a platform for maintaining their AgriVoc thesaurus, and then, you know, thing after thing and interest from other departments of FAO and other organizations, the thing evolved into a fully fledged system for developing thesauri. I cut a long story short, after support from the ISA² program of the European Union, finally we came out with a system the way that I wanted it to be. That is the 3rd edition of Vocbench. And that's all. I'm here. I'm sorry that this timing is a little unfortunate for me, but I really thank you, Phil, for inviting me. And I will try to be, unfortunately, my wife has just undergone a surgery, and we have a little kid that is quite hard to deal with. So I might go up and down sometimes, because here it's 8 p.m. and he needs to be put to sleep, and my wife needs some help. But I will be here most of the time. And also, if there is any question, I mean, that goes beyond the workshop, that the presentation that is given by Phil and Eugene, I will be available, I mean, for any question or for any doubt or any, I don't know, anything that comes to your mind about language. I leave the floor to the others.
Fantastic. Thank you. 4 more people would like to answer the poll, and then I'll close it. Or are we done? 27 out of 31. Okay. Anybody else like to introduce themselves really quickly? Or not so quickly?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Luis, and I am an information science student, and I'm here to create because I don't know the software, but I hope I learn more of it. It's so.
Okay, fantastic. Well, welcome. I'm glad you had a chance to drop in. Okay, 20 out of 31 on the poll. So I think I'll stop the poll, but if anybody else like to introduce themselves, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nishad. I'm from University of Tsukuba, Japan. I am a researcher in information science and I'm a research student. I work in social informatic data sets, so I would like to know more about how to work with Vocbench. So that's why I joined this workshop. Thank you for organizing this.
No problem. Well, I'm glad you had a chance to come today.
Yeah, I'm from Japan, so it's too early here. That's the only difference.
What time is it there?
It's 4 a.m. right now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Do you have baby kids then? You get up early anyway.
No, I don't have. So.
Well, we're trying to keep it engaging, and so it's worth staying up so late or early or getting up so early, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, anyway, I may be the only one from Asia, so it's fine. And thank you for organizing again.
You're more than welcome. Okay, well, what I think I'll do is just briefly go through kind of the results. So 68% of us are knowledge organization systems, 11% IT, and a bit of both. And then very good percentage, 82% of us know what SKOS is. Have you ever used Vocbench? Oh, so we see why people have come. 82% haven't. Everybody can see the poll? Yes?
You can, yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So the next one, what are you hoping to use Vocbench for? Quite a bit mixture. 29% subject headings, 50% vocabularies, 50% taxonomies, 54% the chorus, 36% ontologies, and other. I'm doing a bit of other and controlled vocabularies myself. Do you know what Docker is? And 71% no. Okay, fantastic. Well, hopefully we will be able to maybe explain a little bit about Docker, and I say just a little bit, and a little bit about what Vocbench is too. Okay, so let's just stop that poll. Stop sharing results. And then, right. So Eugene, the next bit.
Sure. Okay, so we wanted to talk about a couple of prerequisites, and one of them is Vocbench. So just briefly talk about what it is. So it is a web-based collaboration tool. So ultimately, if you want to author or manage taxonomies or thesauri, and you want to rely on W3C link data standards, so it's RDF, RDFS, SKOS, and OWL, that's the tool that you would use. So the keywords there are really web-based and collaboration. And why would you actually want to use it? It ensures consistency, among other things, and it enables you collaboration, enables collaboration between different users. In terms of who this tool is designed for, so it's primarily for authors and maintainers of thesauri and taxonomies and ontologies, but there are multiple users and there are ultimately many use cases. So for example, for me, the most interesting use case is around reference data and using SKOS specifically and using Vocbench to manage some of the reference data. But primary user there is the author and maintainer of thesaurus and taxonomy. So when would you actually use it? When you need to author an ontology, thesaurus, taxonomy, you'd use that tool. Likewise, if you're a different kind of user, maybe you want to look up a definition or you want to retrieve concepts, you'd use it obviously at that time when you need to look them up. When and where would you actually run it and how would you run it? So we talked about it being web-based collaboration tool. And so ultimately you use a web browser to build the taxonomy, interact with the tool, and then the server and the storage components are separate. There are multiple ways you can run them. So ultimately you, again, being a web-based collaboration tool, you'd either run it on your own servers on-premise, or you'd use any of the cloud providers. But what we'll actually try and do today is just to get us going quickly. We'll actually use our local machines to get going and to run it. So I think I'll pause here and just ask if this makes any sense, or if you have any questions before we jump to the next step. Okay, so I'll take that as a no. So I think moving on to the other bit. So I think majority of people haven't really worked with Docker, so I think it does need a little bit of an introduction. So in terms of what it actually is, so simply put, it's a platform for developing, packaging, and running your applications. And why would you actually do it? So the main reason you want to do it is it ensures right encapsulation of the application. So you can isolate applications from each other, you can isolate them from the infrastructure. And what that actually allows you to do, it allows you to streamline your development and deployment process. So effectively, you're standardizing your units of deployment. It's sort of similar. So if I am to bring an analogy in, similar to idea in shipping, where invention of containers obviously help trade and shipping to explode, because from doing custom shippings, you ship standard units. So same idea applies to applications. You can use standard packaging, you can use standard containers to develop, ship, and run your applications. So it's built with developers and operations users in mind. So if you're a developer, you want to build an application and you want to make sure that it's easy to run and install, you'd use this technology. Likewise, if you want to make sure that it's easy to deploy applications, let's say you're a IT operations user, you'd use it as well, or you'd insist developers use it rather. When would you use it? You use it when you package and deploy applications. And I think ultimately discussions around Docker and containers and virtualization and containerizations can take many workshops. But I think for our discussion here, I just want to cover absolute basics and what moving parts that we'll be working with today. If you decide to follow along, or if you decide to get the handout materials and try and do it for yourself. So ultimately, there are three moving parts. So there is Docker server that takes care of all the heavy lifting. So it's storing and retrieving images, building images, running the containers, and we'll talk about images and containers shortly, briefly. Sorry. So that's the key part. So there's a Docker daemon that can build images, retrieve images, run containers. It provides some interfaces, so then different clients can talk to it and issue commands such as build the container, pull the container, run the container. So we'll be working with both command line clients and there's a GUI client. So if you downloaded and installed Docker Desktop, there's a Docker dashboard that comes with it. And we'll use both and we'll see how that works. And then the third part is the Docker registry. So we briefly mentioned images and containers. So registry is really where you store the images. So you can build images yourself, or you can rely on images provided to you by others. And we pre-build the image that we're going to use throughout this workshop. So maybe last bit on this slide is talk about images and containers. So quite important parts. So image really is almost like a template for a container. So similar to how you can use, let's say, a virtual disk to run a virtual machine, you need an image to run a container. And then container, although not a virtual machine in a traditional sense, it allows you to run this sort of self-contained, isolated environment, and you can run your software within that environment. So you can make sure that all your dependencies are correct, and you don't need to worry about a sort of mess of compatibility and mess of dependencies. And what we're going to be working with in this specific workshop, really, if you install Docker Desktop, these are the components that you installed. So you got a couple of clients, you have a GUI, you have command line, you actually installed a Docker server that comes with daemon, comes with API. And then for the registry, we'll use a public registry hosted by Docker. So it's hubdocker.com. So it's a Docker hub. So that's quite a lot of material. And I think I'll pause here and just see what questions you have before we jump to next step, or Phil jumps to next step.
While we're waiting, I'll just throw up this poll. So we got just two very simple questions. Do you have Docker Desktop installed? And which operating system do you have? Yeah, I mean, for me, these containers and images has been kind of the black box. And it's until you start using Docker files, then it comes to light that there's two different sections of kind of the architecture. And so I think it takes a while to kind of get your head around it.
That's right. And I think ultimately for this workshop, really what we're trying to do is get a taste of a web-based tool. And really that's the easiest way to run it. But in an ideal scenario, you'd probably run these on an actual server or on a cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, but I think if it seems like a good percentage of the participants here today would kind of like to get started with running it locally. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of months. So for about 3 years, I had it running on a cloud-based solution. And I had someone install it for me and maintain the updates. And I did some other tutorials with another open source software, and they kind of did lots of videos that helped me kind of struggle through of this is what Docker is, this is how you install it. And it was really helpful because now on my local machine, I can run Vocbench whenever I want, and there's no cost associated with it. So it's super helpful. And when you kind of get your head around this Docker system, as I might call it, or architecture, it kind of opens up the world to open source, because quite a few different developers are using this Docker system because it's very easy to deploy. So we've got 5 people that have voted. So anybody else like to let me know if they let us know? Currently, we've only got 5 that have installed Docker Desktop, and 3 out of 5 with Mac OS, 1 with Windows Home, and 1 with Windows 10 Pro. Anybody else? Or any questions about Docker?
I was just going to say, Phil, that the questionnaire disappeared quite quickly. So
is it not? Oh, sorry. Is it gone?
Yep.
Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I apologize.
That's better.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I was wondering. Okay.
Oh, it's gone again.
Disappeared again.
Phil, it's gone again.
Has it?
Stop pushing buttons.
All right. Stop pushing buttons. Move
Right.
on.
Yeah, as soon as I click on the first question, then it disappears. Yeah,
yes.
it's gone again.
Has it?
I'm just going to say Windows Professional.
Same here.
Okay, so Nikki, you're using Windows Professional. Anybody else like to just speak up since the poll's broken?
I just installed it following the instructions with Mac.
Okay.
But I have no idea what it's all about, to be honest.
Fantastic.
I hope I will learn a lot.
Yeah, we're going to kind of really lightly touch on what Docker Desktop is. It's a very sophisticated piece of software, and it's been around for a couple years now. Anybody else?
Just to give a bad impression of myself, I never use Docker for Vocbench, but okay.
You don't?
Especially excused because
you can start using our image.
Docker distribution, but I never used it.
Have you downloaded it? That's the big question.
Sorry?
Have you downloaded it?
Yeah. No. I'm downloading it now for the first time. So thank you for the occasion.
Anybody else? Or you could put it in the chat. Right. Okay. Well, believe it or not, I mean, I did have this. Okay. Oh, so we got a couple. So I've installed. Okay. So we've got Mac OS, Windows 10, Mac OS, Windows 10 Home. Fantastic. Anybody else? The only reason we're asking about your operating system is we're just trying to get an understanding. Ubuntu, fantastic. Just so we can get another one for Windows 10 Home, because on Windows, for example, Home and Pro, there's 2 different elements. Okay, got another one for Windows Home. Okay, great. Pro, Windows 10 Pro.
Yeah, I had the same experience as Michelle. It asked me to do some updates and edits to the system to get it to open.
I'm sorry?
You see what Michelle Lamort is saying? She installed it on Windows 10 Home. I had to make a bunch of system edits, updates to get it to open. It did the same to me. Is that normal?
There
are a couple of dependencies. That's right. Yeah, Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Eugene. What dependencies was it asking for? Another one for Mac OS?
Yeah, I think so. I forget because I did it a few days ago, but I was worried that I was changing my system into making it, I don't know. I wasn't sure what I was doing, but it's working, so.
Okay.
I think it's in
Another one for Windows 10. Yeah, that's part of the reason we're holding. We won't go into the dependencies today. What we would like to do is potentially on the next workshop do a bit of troubleshooting. So if people weren't able to install it between, or haven't installed it now, and they tried to install it in the next week or so, we'd have a follow-up one so that we could try to kind of support you the best we can on these dependencies and some of these boxes that come up. And we can just go through them, because it does have a couple dependencies depending on what operating system you're running. So my other MacBook, which I downloaded on Windows 10 Pro, says was unable to download. Okay. Windows 10, another one for Windows 10. Okay. So there's a mix of Mac and OS, or Mac and Windows. So what I was going to do is kind of talk a little bit. Can I do the remote?
Stop sharing, yeah.
So what I was going to do is just let's share my screen here. Okay, so Eugene briefly talked about Docker Hub and it being a registry. And so it connects files together, I think. Eugene?
Well, broadly, right. So you run Docker server, so you can you can issue a command to it, so it goes to the registry, pulls the image locally, and then you can do things with that image. And I think what you wanted to talk about is how you actually do this pulling.
Yeah. But for some reason, this is a different computer. My Docker desktop hasn't come back up. So, but what I will do is, so if you type into Google or any other search Docker Hub, it will come up with hub.docker.com. Now, this is the register, the main register for the Docker files, right, Eugene?
Right, so it's one of the registries for Docker images. So, for example, for this workshop, we created an image for Vocbench and we published it onto Docker Hub. So others can discover it. Well, everyone in this workshop can discover it, and then pull it locally, so you can run a container with that image.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'll just type in. Oh, I think there's no space, is there? Just click enter there, and then we just go over here to recently updated. And so this is the, would we say image or the
yeah, that's right. Well, that's an image. So if you want to build a Docker image, you'd use a Docker file, and you can build all these images yourself. But in this case, we created a Docker file, we built the image, and we published it into Docker Hub. And that's, so if you click into that, yeah. So you clicked on the repository, and that repository probably has a, not probably, it has a couple of.
So all the ones that are on Docker Hub have this very simple pull command. So in this particular instance, this is when you're doing command line, and we'll do that in a second, you do Docker, and then it's a space. And then in this particular instance, we're going to do a pull. So we're going to pull this file from Docker Hub onto our local machine. And then this bit here is just the location. So it's just that location there and the originator. So if you go to anything on Docker Hub, it will have this section here, Docker pull. And if you just click this little handy button here, that will copy it. So it's copied that. Now on Windows, if I go into here and go command, you get the command prompt. Now on Mac, it's a bit different, isn't it, Eugene?
It's a terminal, but roughly you can use any terminal. And I think
you type in if you're on a Mac now.
Well, you just do a search for terminal. You do command space and you type terminal into search and you start it. So similar sort of setup. I'm not on Mac now, but
yeah,
you just start a terminal. Or if you're using other non-default terminals, you might run iterm, which is another option. Likewise, on Windows, there are other ways to run this. So you might use PowerShell, but this is the simplest.
This is the simplest way, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the simplest way. So on Windows, you would go to command prompt and then click that, and we get this awful black box.
It's a lovely black box.
Oh, it's an awful black box. Because if you don't put in exactly what the command is, so for example, if you don't put in exactly Docker pull and then cat and Vocbench 3, it won't do anything. So what I'll do is I've copied that. Now I'll go back over to and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click, and that copies it in there. Now on command line, you can't. I think you can. Wait a minute. Let me just check that. See if you can do a Control V. So Control V. So just a copy paste, or you can type it out. But I think if you're just getting started, I would definitely copy it. But if you type in Docker, then pull, but as long as you got a space between there, and then just click enter. Now, what's going to happen now is it's not going to download. Well, it's going to try to download the image, but because I don't have Docker desktop running, because for some reason it's on another user or something, I've had some meltdown tonight, it will start to pull down these files. And I'd like to just give an opportunity for questions or comments before I push enter. Or you can put it in the chat if you like. No? Okay. So I just click enter, and it says Docker is not recognized. But now it's over to Eugene, where he's downloaded the image. Well, he's got it on his machine there, and he'll show us from Docker desktop. So before I go away, what it will do is will have a list of different files that it will be pulling down. So will it do download, then pull, extract?
No, it would just, well, that's right. But it would be downloading the ready to use images.
Well, we've got a screenshot of that, don't we? Because it's about 2 minutes.
We do. I have it on the screen as well. So you can roughly, you'll know what it's looking like, and I can actually erase the image and redo it as well. So maybe we'll just do that. Okay, so let me start
sharing there.
Okay, right. So let's try.
Quick type command line into terminal on Mac, and it begins the files of the container. Okay. I was able to pull down files by copying the command into Windows command prompt. Happy days, Jonathan. A step forward.
Okay, so maybe what I can do actually is just get rid of this container.
Well, just leave it there just in case we've got a malfunction. We do have 30 guests.
Perfect. Okay, but so at the end of it, you'll see something that looks roughly like this terminal here. So whether you are running Windows or Ubuntu or Mac OS, you'd see something like that, and for about 2 minutes you'll get lovely progress bars. So when these progress bars disappear, typically in the Docker. So what I'm looking at is a Docker dashboard, which is a sort of UI version of the client. So
Eugene, sorry, could you just make it a bit bigger?
Yes, yeah, I can. Oh, let me try again. Okay, this might be a little bit better. Well, I guess it can just maximize it, right? So let's just quickly talk through about what actually happened when we talk through, right? So when we issue the command such as docker pull, what actually happens, you're using a command line client. You connect to a local Docker daemon. What does that do? So you can sort of follow this line, and we'll send you the slides at the end as well, so you can follow along with a bit more steps in them. And so you issue the pull command. What does the daemon do? Well, it goes to the Docker registry. It grabs the image, puts it in locally. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to run the image, but the mechanism is roughly the same. You can either use the command line or you can use the dashboard, which is graphical sort of user interface client. And so we'll go to that step.
Oh,
next.
sorry, Eugene.
Yeah.
I just got one quick question.
Sure.
On Mac, when I install Docker, it appears as a whale, and that's what I was going to show. Remember about going to the desktop and showing how you start Docker desktop? So
yeah, so on Macs, what happens? So obviously your Docker daemon process starts, but what you also get is like a little drop-down menu at the top, next to the, well, not next, left of the clock, and where all the other process icons are. So the way you navigate to this,
I think that's
graphical
what
clients.
Claudia is saying, is that I have an error during connect. This error may indicate that Docker daemon is not running. So if you could just go to your desktop and show us how we start Docker desktop, because I was going to show that.
Right. So I don't think I had anything special really. So
arrow at the bottom.
Well, so bear with me a second.
No,
so in Docker desktop, you certainly start like that. And I think the menu that you're talking about is
so
this little guy.
Yeah, so that's where I normally do. So if you can go quit or you go start. Oh, Claudia's in Windows. So Claudia, is this what you see? Is this little pull-up menu at the bottom?
No, sorry, the problem is with the terminal, is not with Docker app, because I didn't open Docker app. I just opened terminal and paste the pull, but the pull gave me this error.
Yeah, that's right. So because the pull command on the command line doesn't actually download the image itself, so it simply gives it simply issues a command to Docker daemon to go and download the image. So I think what this means is that your Docker instance isn't running. So if you're on Mac, the way to start it is if you just do a command space and search for Docker.
But I'm in Windows.
You're on Windows. Okay, so.
Claudia, do you want to share your screen real quick and show us?
I can't because I'm running the video on Zoom on my iPad, and then I'm working on Windows on the PC, so it's not possible to share.
Okay, that's fine. I was just, so what were you going to say, Eugene? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that the way to start it is just start Docker desktop, and then there will be a, well, I guess you could just pick a Docker from this little, yeah, from, that's right. And then here you'd have the options to either restart, or you'll see the dashboard option as well. So if I click that, I mean, obviously I already have it running. But you can see this little indicator that will tell you.
Just for a second, and just close, Eugene. Could you just quit Docker desktop for just a second? Just quit it.
Quit everything.
Yeah, and then just show Claudia and others, because if you don't know, you've got it installed, then you try to do the pull. So it's stopping right now.
So that's stopped, right? So
and
obviously
then,
what?
Yeah.
So let's just try and get it going. So what this should do is should just start it back up.
And then you'll get the little whale going up and down, says Docker desktop is starting. Sometimes you might get a little pop-up in the bottom window saying it's starting. And on my machine, which is about 10 years old downstairs, it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. So it's not super fast, but obviously Eugene's got quite a fast machine there. Came right up.
I don't know, it's really quite old now, but in any case, I think that's yeah. So that's how you'd start it.
Claudia, did you?
Yeah, but I am in this point, but I can see my Kitty Workbench 3 because the pool didn't work, so I couldn't have these images inserted.
That's right. So you need to start Docker first, and then when it's started, then you can do a pull, and then it should pull the image.
Do you want to try that? Let us know.
Yeah, I tried, but it doesn't work.
All right. So did you go to, you're on Windows, right? So you went to the command line, right?
Yeah.
And what did it say? Did it have a similar error to, if I just share my screen for a second?
The error starts with using the full tag latest error during connect, and the message I wrote.
Did it have this error here? Docker is not recognized.
No. It's like the file is the system cannot find this file specified.
The system.
I can try to restart everything and then maybe it work.
Eugene, what do you think?
A little hard without seeing the error, maybe to try and debug it on the fly.
Okay. I tell you what, I'll put my email in the chat. If you send me a screenshot of it, we'll try to come back with a helpful solution. Right, Amanda?
I can share the screen because I have the same error as Claudia.
Do you?
Okay.
Fantastic. Let's see if we can sort it out.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Right. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, this is the error.
Right, so what it says, the error may indicate that the Docker daemon is not running. So if you look at your, sorry, trying to see the screen. So if you click, where's the, so in your taskbar, there will be a little triangle, the sort of triangle that goes up. I was trying to see.
Yeah, see, it's failed to start.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the main issue. So for one reason or the other, it's not starting. So that the Docker Docker daemon is not starting. So if I recall, like when I installed it on Windows, I think on Macs, I don't recall if you need to restart Windows, but I think on Windows you do need to restart. As you install the dependencies, I think it's the Windows system for Linux.
So, sorry, are you on Windows Home or Pro?
Windows Pro, Windows 10 Pro.
So there's something in the options as far as enabling Hyper-V. Did it ask you any questions like that?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So it's failed to start. It may be. So, Eugene, you think it needs a restart?
Well, I guess it's a little hard to say. There should have been other steps, I guess, to follow. So if you follow the install steps, it's getting the WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux, installed, and enabling that, and then installing Docker. So I think probably best thing to do, I'm just thinking, what we can try and do is forward you the link that's specific to Windows 10 Pro install, and we can just talk through it, perhaps either offline or at a sort of troubleshooting session, whichever way we want to call it. Just going to see if these steps are followed.
May I just say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to step in because obviously, I mean, you're leading this, and I think it's also an interesting part to learn how to install it into Docker. But I think from the perspective of what is the objective, that is installing Vocbench, I think this might be misleading, especially for people who have not a high background in IT. I mean, installing Docker is like 1000% more complicated than installing Java, because installing Java is like you just go on the linker Java, you download it, and it's done. And then installing Vocbench is just you download it, you click on start, and it's done, and it starts. And it takes like 3 minutes, probably, concluding the time for downloading it. So, I mean, again, we provide also Docker images because I think that Docker is obviously, I mean, I will not stay here providing all the advantages of having containers, because like you said at the start, you can bring them around and it's always the same installation, because it's like having a virtual machine. Okay, now it's not a virtual machine, it's a container, but so with even some more advantages with respect to a virtual machine. But again, it depends what is the target, because I mean, the incipit of this workshop was like, yeah, Vocbench is good, but it requires a little bit of work to install. But probably for somebody who is not, I mean, who might think that there is a little work to do to install, probably has not any specific background in IT, and then Docker is not the way to go, because it's much more complicated, and it's not because of Vocbench, it's because of Docker. That is just my feedback. I don't want to. Sorry, I was not sure if stepping in was, but I didn't want to be inappropriate. But I really think that this might scare people off instead of saying because really, like saying it requires a little bit of work. Really, installing Vocbench requires no work at all. If Java is already in your system, you just download and click start. If you need to have Java installed, you just download Java. It takes like 5 minutes, and it's a simple installer for Windows. You don't have to do any choice, any selection, anything. It's done, and then you just download Vocbench and click start like before. There is only one thing, that is downloading the proper Java, but it suffices to give the proper link. That is, it has to be Java 8 and not Java 11 or 14.
That's true, yeah.
And that's the only requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'd like to do is, should we try to have a mini session on trying to troubleshoot some of the Docker desktop, and then we can just continue with showing people how to get started in creating a project and so forth. Eugene?
Well, I think certainly in the interest of time, because we wanted to obviously fit it within an hour, so we're quite quite well into it, probably just over. So what I would do is let's set up a separate session. I think Armando, I get your point about the Java install. So I think this was actually an attempt to try and isolate the installs, and maybe perhaps maybe that's because of my background where I had to run, I don't know, five different Java versions on my machine, right?
I totally understand. I mean, as a system administrator, I totally understand that Docker is the way to go, and now everything, practically every service is hosted on. But this is something for system administrators.
True.
It's not for users that maybe just are running. Because if you are an end user and you just want to use Vocbench on your desktop for having some practice with it, then you just go for the quickest line. If you are a system administrator, it's another matter. But from the point of view of the user, they have their IT manager, and then the IT manager will do whatever mumbo jumbo they know to have the best installation for your system with security firewalls and everything else. But from the perspective of a, let's say, Windows user who is just installing Vocbench, they just download, click on the start batch, and it's done.
Right.
It's just a matter of different figures which are involved into the matter.
Yeah. And we can try these different ways, because I mean, ultimately the goal of these workshops is to introduce Workbench, say this tool is available, it's a great tool. Ideally you'd run it, like you said, your IT would run it for you, you run it on the cloud. But here's how to try it. So okay, so I think maybe for now let's press on, put it on the screen, and
so I think we should just go with run now.
that's exactly what we need to do, right? And so obviously when you want to create a container out of the image, you'd want to
share your screen now.
I'm not sharing my screen, of course not. That's okay, right? So let me just do this again, cancel out of this. So by the end of pool, you'll have your image. And now what you can do is you can run it. So what does that do? That would create a container, and you'd need to obviously give that container a name. So let's call it Workbench 3. Workbench 3. We talked about sort of containers and images without going into too much details around ports and the magic of networking that happens within Docker. We just need to say that we're specifying the same port to expose to the user as Vocbench is exposing internally in the container. And that's it. And so Vocbench is running. And so what you can actually do now is you could, well, that's something I haven't quite seen before. Let's just try and hit it. That is odd. We'll just wait for it to start. Okay, so it started now. Certainly shouldn't be doing that.
It's always the case when you practice this and then you do a fresh install. What do? You get that page.
Right. Yes, I guess Armando, I have to maybe admit sometimes it's easier to do something else. But let's try again. Let's do it again. I suspect what actually happens, because obviously I restarted the I suspect I restarted Docker. but that shouldn't have actually caused anything else. So let me just wait for it to start. I think this is looking rather healthier. Okay, well that's good. So what are we doing, right? So obviously we started containers with Vocbench inside locally. We're using our local host and we're using the port that we specified, so 1979. So when the browser, when the client of Vocbench loads, because you're loading it for the first time, you actually see some of the initial setup questions. So you need to go ahead and set up user, and you need to go ahead and that's odd. Okay, right. So you want to set up the user, and then you want to provide some basic configuration settings. So what we're going to do now is actually just use all the pre-filled details. So we'll just pick up standard admin user. We'll keep all the other options empty, and we can step through them in the next couple of workshops. And then ultimately you'd want to set your preferred language. I guess I'll just pause here, ask if there's any questions. Maybe there's something.
There's one question. Mm-hmm. How did you get from Docker UI, Docker to this UI?
That's right. So we talked about Vocbench being a web-based collaboration tool. So ultimately you need a browser to run your client. So I picked, well, in this case, it's Google Chrome, and I picked and I put the URL in the URL for Vocbench, or rather default URL for Vocbench, and it's localhost 7979 Vocbench 3, and then when you hit that URL in your browser, you start loading the client. Any more questions? I guess I can just pull.
Not at this point.
All right, I need to pick my chat up. Okay, cool. Right, so let's get going. Let's proceed. So fantastic. So our registration is complete.
So don't forget, we need to tell them what the password is. So the password would be admin in this particular case.
That's right. So for default user, admin at vocbench.com, the password is admin, but ultimately there's quite a bit of functionality around user roles. So you can set up multiple users, you can set up the whole collaboration system. Okay, so we're on to the next step. So once you created the user, you're an admin. This is the first time you're running it. You need to specify some configuration. So what we'll actually do, we'll skip all of this configuration. I'll just quickly mention what's actually in it. So it's the email configuration, it's the notification config. There's some registration details.
Had a quick question in, do you need to download GitHub Docker tutorial suggested as a fun example?
You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to. So one way to build the containers is to use what's called a source control system. So GitHub is one such source control system. And so ultimately what you can do, you can create descriptions of your images on GitHub. You can get them built with Docker, and then these images will be hosted on the Docker hub. So short answer is no, you don't have to, but if you're up for it, yeah, it's a fun example, exactly what it says on the tin. Would you be able to share some written instructions how to go from Docker to Vocbench? I got Docker, but then I got lost. Yes, we will. So there's a handout, but I think the easiest, the easiest way to do it is start the browser and then put this. Well, let me just put this into chat actually. Why don't I?
I always found that bit a bit tricky too. Why is it called localhost? Is it called the same on on Macs.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Mac or Windows, that's the default host name for your local machine.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Okay, good. So I think I'll just click done, and we're done. So we have Workbench configured. We started it. So ultimately, now if we want to create, well, if we want to create a thesaurus, we would need to create a project.
So the system can take because
right.
That's to be for a username and password.
Right. So I think that's a bit of a subtle, I guess, thing there. So without going in depth into Workbench, I guess internals and architecture might be a little hard to answer. So I don't know if we should. So I think the question is about the Karaf username and password prompt.
Yeah. So I think if they put in the Vocbench 3, or if they just put in port. Michelle, if you put in port 1979 / Vocbench 3.
Yeah, I set it up with this URL that's in there, and now I'm at the place where he had the setup page before. Whereas if I didn't put that in and I went straight from Docker to here, then it kept giving me the username password request and not letting me go anywhere. So I just added the URL manually to get to that place where you had the account set up.
Yeah,
that's right. So you went to registration 1.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Okay, great. So let's press on and create a project. So let's say we want to create a taxonomy. I'll use a very simple example, sort of close to what I've been doing recently, which is a capability model, right? So let's create a capability model taxonomy for an investment management firm. So how do we do it? We click create on a project. We need to put project name. Well, I'll use the one that I prepared before. So my project is called Investment Management Capabilities. We won't preload any data. We can talk about preloading data, you know, in some other workshop. We need to specify base URL. So as you know, I think most people are actually familiar with SKOS and familiar with W3C standards. Obviously, any concept will be identified by a URI, and so here we have a chance to specify what the prefix is for these URIs, and we'll talk about creating identifiers for concepts sort of later. And then we obviously want to specify model as SKOS, lexicalization as SKOS. So in this case, we're building really quite simple thesaurus, so nothing particularly fancy, so very simple SKOS lexicalization will do. And this is a very simple demo again, so we don't want to track history, we don't want to do validation, we don't want to do any blacklisting, and we're using simple built-in in-memory data store. So we sort of talked about how Workbench is built, and the fact that there is a separate browser client, there's a separate server, but separate storage possibly. We'll talk about that in some other workshops, but here it's a very simple setup. I'll pause here again and just see if any questions. Maybe Phil, you have some point to clarify here as well. Okay, I'll take that as a no. So let's just go ahead and create a project. Great, project created successfully. So we have our project. So now we obviously want to start adding. We want to start working on the actual thesaurus. So we need to pick this project, hit this radio button, and you have multiple options there. So at the top of this workshop, we talked about some of the tools available for collaboration. We didn't talk about what specifically they are, but Workbench, especially the latest version, 8.01, there's really quite a lot of additional tools around import and export of data, around validation, around collaboration, around visualization. So there's a way to query your data set. There's a way to work with metadata. So there's support for DCAT, which is one of the vocabularies for data catalogs. But we won't go there. So for now, we simply want to create a SKOS concept scheme, and we want to add a concept. So let's do exactly that. So let's go and create a concept scheme. So you need to pick scheme, tab, and you want to add a label. Well, let's say if we're creating a scheme for investment management capabilities, we just want to call this investment management capabilities. So that will be our scheme. So now notice what we're doing with the URI. So there are multiple options to obviously work with identifiers of either concepts or concept schemes in Vocbench. So here we're just using default prefix that we specified when we created the project, and we're leaving this part empty just so the rest of the URI is generated randomly. So I think important to note, and I think Stella Dexter talked about it in her series, really important to understand who's actually using your taxonomy and what is yours. And that will possibly drive some of the URIs, right? So if, for example, for my last project, the immediate question that I got using random or numeric URIs, question coming mostly from technical audiences, okay, well, why is URI doesn't simply have the actual term, right? And so there are multiple options to dealing with these URIs, but for now we just leave them empty. So to generate a random one. So just hit. In fact, let me just pause here and I'll see if there's a question, any questions in the chat. Okay. Well, let's press on then. Okay, great. So we have the concept scheme. So what do we want to do now? Well, we actually want to go and create a concept. So I'd want to hit tick on the scheme, go to the concepts, and just create our first concept. So again, if we're designing thesaurus of investment management capabilities, our top concept might be, well, investment management. Okay, so probably want to fix that. Again, we'd leave the URI empty. We're specifying the scheme, so there's only one scheme that we created. So by default, that's the scheme that's being used. So this concept will be in that scheme, and because it's the first concept, it will also be a top concept in that scheme. Great, so we have one. Now, if I click on the concept, you can actually see all of its attributes, and perhaps in the next couple of workshops we can expand on how exactly you can use all of these, and how you can add nodes, how you can add definitions, so on and so forth. I think originally we wanted to pause here, and rather than adding the additional concepts. So, Phil, what do you think? You want to add a couple, or
yeah, I mean, I
sort of
think
pause here?
There was a question. I clicked on the search bar, but I can't see anything. So is that at the bottom, the search in Vocbench? Okay. So I think this is a good place to get some feedback on kind of creating a concept and a scheme. Does anybody have any questions about how you do that in Vocbench? Love the silence.
Hi, sorry, I'm a bit lost even in the Docker bit. I just sent me the link, but then I enter it on the search bar, but then nothing
Okay.
happens. So.
Oh, you mean in the browser, yeah? So did you, if you, on your Docker desktop, does it say running at the bottom?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes, in green.
And the image downloaded, is that correct?
I see images on disk, and there's the local and remote repositories, and the local is underlined, and then there is a search bar below. So if I enter that, the cadmi kitties /Vocbench3,
yeah.
Then I just do enter and then nothing happens.
So you're doing that, you're in Windows, is that right?
No, I'm on Mac.
Okay, so you're in the terminal and you've done a Docker space pull and you've tried to pull the image, is that right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get into Vocbench.
So you've gone into your black box and you've typed in that, is that right?
No, I don't see any black box.
Okay. Right. So does it in Docker desktop, does it show, EJ, maybe you could just quickly just go to your screen and show where it shows the Docker desktop and not the container that is downloaded.
So which part, I guess? So we have the images, right? So
well, yeah, if you go to,
this is what I have.
Great. Okay, so you have the running container and it says running port 17, port 1979. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, great. So you're actually sharing the screen.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Fantastic. Okay.
For a surprise for them.
No. Okay, great. Well, there you go. So no. You don't need to put the search there. So so you put that into the command line, right?
Okay. So how do I get there?
So go to click on the start menu, or even just type into the search bar in next to start button. So just type what do you type? Command. Well, right
okay.
So you should have command prompt. No, not there. In Windows, you know the Windows start button right at the bottom of the screen. Well, usually it's in the
no, I'm on a Mac.
You're on the Mac. Okay, so do a command space.
Okay.
And type terminal, TERM. And just start the terminal, so it will be first program in the list.
Just like that?
Yeah, I can't see exactly what you're doing because you're only showing one window, but I suspect you're starting. So you should have a screen.
Okay.
It lets you a screen with a command prompt.
It's actually white.
Yeah, that's fine. White is, that's kind of Mac default. Okay, so and then in there, just put that command, which is docker pull, docker space pull space. Let me just put it in here.
Okay.
I'll just put it into chat. I mean, it's this command, right?
Docker space.
Well, it's the one that I put in the chat. It's that one. It's just put in.
So if you do that, then you should have a lot of download bars.
So then that.
I can't see that window because you're only sharing Docker desktop.
Would you like to share the terminal?
How do I do that?
So if you stop share and then you would just share another bit of your screen or another application.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah. So like that?
Right, so you need to put Docker in front of it, right?
Uh-huh.
No. You need to get rid of all of that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then just put Docker space pool space and then cadmium kt / Vocbench 3. Yeah, I just remove the last pool. Well, no, it won't work that way. But you can of course, yeah, exactly. Yeah, brilliant.
And then
just enter. You don't need to get to the end of it, I don't think. Yeah, fantastic. So you see, we should just run one of these.
Made some progress. Armando, we got another person using Vocbench.
Yeah, Armando, thanks for.
So then, like that, if I'm not, so it's not being downloaded into the computer, but using Docker.
Probably
Am I right?
That's a technical question there. Access denied. We've got another query here while that's downloading. So
it says that my internet connection is stable.
Yeah.
And that's probably because I'm using my hotspot from my phone.
Yeah, that might be a.
Yeah, that might be a challenge.
It's about a gig in total.
You have 4G.
Gosh, I hope you've got a really good data plan.
Yeah.
Not that big of an image, is it?
Oh yeah, it's unlimited.
Oh, happy days.
Good. All right, so that's interesting. Docker pool cadmium kt using default tag error response from daemon pool access denied. Repository doesn't exist. There's a typo in Vocbench. So
yeah,
there are mirror. It's VOC without H.
This reminds me of when the internet first started, when we had dial-up, and I think it was 56K, and you used to watch things download. It was quite amusing.
True, right?
So there was a question.
Yeah, it's unlimited anyways. And
no, but I'm just saying it just reminds me of those times when the internet was not as fast as it is now. Oh, we're picking up pace now.
So there's a question from Damien whether we want to actually show a little bit more about Vocbench and then talk a little bit more about Vocbench. We certainly can. I think the question is what direction, so what direction to take it to.
Is it a good time for me to bring up the poll for next steps?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
While that's downloading, because this is good entertainment. Now, hopefully this one has stayed up for a while. So would you be interested in another workshop? And topics for the next workshop? Does that come up? The poll? Yep.
Yes.
We've got some answers. Oh, I thought troubleshooting was just going to shoot right over there, but it's come back. Importing data, one of my favorite. I do like importing the CSVs into Vocbench. It's makes life much easier.
Well, one needs
troubleshooting. 36%, 33. Oh, it's going down. Creating and managing concepts. It's getting some traction there. Okay, 82% would like another workshop. Well, going up a bit. This is like a race. Just watching it go up. Oh, you guys can't see it go up, but I can kind of see it. So importing data. So I think, is everybody, is everybody, there's 24 people still here, 23 people. Anybody else like to put their 2 cents in? As I'd say? Okay. I will end the poll. So 79% would like to do another workshop. Okay. Well, that's good to me. So Docker desktop troubleshooting, 5 people. That's great. Creating and managing concepts. Okay. I think we can manage that. You think, Eugene?
Yeah.
Can you see the poll?
No, I can't. For some reason. Oh yeah, I can now.
Sorry. Right.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I mean, we can certainly show some of it right away if people have time to kind of stick around for a little bit longer.
Armando, do you want to just share about the links that you put in the chat real quick as another option? Because this, just to clarify, this is not really a Docker workshop. It's more about, this is one way to use Vocbench, and Armando's got another way. Maybe we can look at it in a bit more detail.
Okay. But do you want me to share the screen or?
Yeah, if you like. Yeah, fantastic.
See if I can.
I'll just stop the share the poll there.
I think I stopped sharing too.
Let me see. Oh.
Do you want me to stop sharing because yeah.
Oh, it was.
Okay.
Whose screen is that?
That's Armando's, I think.
Yeah. So is it? Do you see the WSL2 installation is incomplete?
Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, I cannot install Java because I already have it installed in my PC. But the general idea is that you just go on the Java installation page. So this is the Vocbench homepage. I will make it larger a little, so can you all see it?
Yep.
Okay, so requirements. There is practically just to install Java 8. So you can go here, and then you can see various versions of Java. And the one that you have to download is Java 8. This is the important part. And possibly, I don't recall if GRE is sorry, it's enough, but JDK, so JDK version 8, that's the only thing that you have to remember. And it has to be obviously for your system. So once you go here, there will be various, I posted directly the link to JDK 8 in the
link, in the chat, sorry, yeah.
Not the proper version. When I say no more, no less, just to clarify, here you have like 8 update 271. Okay, this is not important. The important part is that it's Java 8. This is the update version of the Java development kit. If it goes beyond, it's fine, because the important part is the main number. The main number has to be 8. So that's the only requirement. The installation is very easy because it's a simple Windows installer. So you don't have to choose anything. You just click install. You might choose, for example, to have Java in a particular directory, but they are all optional requirements, optional settings, sorry. And you just go ahead with the installation. You don't need to do anything. And Java will be installed in your machine. The only thing that might be a little more complicated is if you...
Sorry, can I just stop you just for a second? Can you just clarify? So you've got Java SE JDK 8. Is that the one people should install then? That's in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, Cool. Thank you.
So the only thing, but this depends on you. I mean, usually if you have it, you are aware of it, is if you have already Java installed in your system. For example, in my case, I have already Java 11 for some reason, and I keep another copy of Java 8. In that case, it might be a little more complicated, but probably if you already have Java in your system, you know what you're doing. If you don't have, as it is in most of the cases, you just download Java 8 and everything is done. After that, you download Vocbench, and download Vocbench means that you go on the download section. And here is the big packet page where there is the downloads. And here you click on it. This is the latest version, 8.0.1. You click and it's downloaded. Now, without me going ahead on the download, suppose that we have down, or let's wait. Let's wait for it. It doesn't take much.
I see you don't have 4G in your house.
You don't have, sorry?
4G. You've got.
No. Luckily, I'm with optic fiber. So I have this version. This is the one that I just installed. And okay, now let's copy. Let's suppose I go on some directory. I don't know. I will make this temporary directory. So this is really from scratch. Besides Java, which I already have it installed in my PC. Let's say now in my temp directory, I have created this. I've copied the file that I just installed. I unzip here. And then from here, let me check if I already hadn't started, because otherwise we'll have a collision with an already existing Vocbench. I just click on, it's caraf.bat.
Now, sorry, before you go any further, is that shown on the instructions on the download page?
Yeah. If you go on the, no, it's the instruction are, let me go back here. And here it says, we see installation, and then running the system, run the caraf script from the bin directory. So I have run the caraf script. Now, sorry, I have a problem with my PC. When I'm connected with some video call, it slows down a little. So
okay.
Also it's the first time, so it's creating the directories. After I click start, so let's wait a little. Okay. So you see now can you see the console in the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, you see that it's going on st started, and now there is this directory which has been created. Okay. So let me go now on the now it's loading again. Sorry, because the PC, my PC has some problem with the video screen. When I'm sharing the screen, I don't know why it gets slowed down a lot. But anyway,
these computers are very annoying, aren't they?
Then here we are in the screen that you see before, and okay, okay. You will see a different. This is just in the cookie. This is like the email of the standard user that I use usually in my other Vocbench, because it's stored in the browser. Anyway, on this you can just click submit, and it's done. Sorry, there is some. Okay. That's all. Okay. Then on these, you can just keep everything. Obviously, there are instructions for all of this field in the site. The site is full of documentation, but you can just click on done, and then Vocbench is here. And then you start creating projects. I don't know, I mean, I can give you the floor for showing other things, but this was just for the installation. If you want, I can go ahead with some demoing, but I mean, I can.
Well, I think we'd love to have some demos, but I think for time's sake, I think we're going to get ready to. But thank you very much for sharing that, because really, at the end of the day, this workshop is about getting started. And if there's always more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. It's probably a bad expression, but so we went through and looked at using Docker Desktop, which is something that I use. And now we've had a very quick look at using Java, and we'll add that to the handout too. So we've got two different ways to get started with Vocbench, and that's the key for me. And Eugene, I'm sure that's the key for you, isn't it? It's now we've got it started. Now we can start to use it, and we can talk about creating a SKOS or some other type of information and how you manage that in Vocbench. So I just want to give an opportunity if anybody, if I just stop sharing your screen, stop sharing. Would anybody like to share anything or any quick questions? Jonathan, you gonna say something? You look like you're gonna say something. No, okay. Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming. And I know some of you had maybe some challenges of getting Docker Desktop up and running, but Amando's been very kind and showed us another way of getting Vocbench up and running. So now we've got two options to work with. And so what I think Eugene and I will probably discuss is kind of putting together the next class or workshop continuing on this journey, because this is a great piece of software and there's many different opportunities to use it. Right now I'm using it with some building regulations, and I've also got a controlled vocabulary. So I've kind of used it in a couple different ways. And we really didn't talk about the different models at all that it supports. And so there's a wealth of information and technology that's available to us that's been kindly coded, and sweat and tears have gone into it. And now we've got an opportunity to kind of look at how we can progress with the software. So one thing I will add is there is a mailing list for Vocbench, and I've used it for over the last couple of years, putting in silly questions as I do, but there's some real experts on that mailing list, and we'll put that in the slides. So if you've got a silly question, as I do from time to time, put it in there. And there are some serious people, serious experts that know Vocbench, know SKOS, know they're building some really big vocabularies and using this on a very big scale. And they're doing lots of customized work, which some of it I read the notes and I think, I don't really know what that means, but I'm still learning. But Eugene, would you like to say anything else?
Maybe not a lot. I think my use cases are probably slightly different, but I mean, absolutely. So the goal here is to not necessarily get stuck into some technical details of how to get it installed, but rather what's the way to get it running, and then start talking about what the use cases are and how to best use it.
Okay. So what I think we'll do is we'll set up a meetup for probably, if you're interested, I'm just looking at my diary now, and it'll probably be either, I know we've got ISKO meetup on the 19th, so it'll be either the 5th, probably be the 12th of January will be the next session, and just keep your eyes open on the meetup. And if there's any interest, sign up.
Okay.
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 Hi, Heather.
Okay. And hi, Armando. I came in very late. I had another meeting. But,
we all have other meetings. Yeah, we're at the end now. Nice to see you.
Let me say something. There are no silly questions, and actually all your, questions on the mailing list were very much welcome, because you can share your experience with other users. So I really welcome everybody to join the community of Vocbench on the mailing list that I linked it on the chat, but also as Phil said, they are on the slides. And the bigger the better. And we are really sharing things there. It's not only the development team of Vocbench replying there, but there is a really active community, and very often there are other users replying to users making asking questions. So really, you are everybody welcome to participate and make the community an even better one.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, actually.
Okay, if nobody else has any other comments, I think I'll stop the recording.
Okay.